Major League Baseball, can you dig it? The first weekend of the opening of the season. If we don't count in the Japan series, it's been wonderful to watch. It's been warmer temperatures on the East Coast, and this is Pro Baseball Today. Once again, we will be with you each and every Sunday right here on the SportsGrid Network, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern, to break down every single game on the Sunday slate and get you caught up on the hot topics of the week. I'm Donnie Rightside, along with my partner, Tom Vecchio, and away we go, live and in style, Tom.
Yeah, we have an awesome show, not just today, but throughout the entire season. We had some great action yesterday. We had some great action to really kick off the season. We have a lot to get to in terms of, as you said, the overall storylines. We'll dig into some futures. And then we're going to hop into the games. We have a full slate of games today. Some teams are starting off slow. Some teams are starting off hot. Let's get the ball rolling.
This is really fun to do because understand this. There are components of a Major League Baseball season, and handicappers such as myself and Tom certainly shift focuses from early season to mid-season to late season. And it's very important now that we do have live shows here and on Sundays to sort of bring you along with that handicapping process. Now, we're going to hit the hot topics in just a few moments, and we got 2 hours to get to everything we need to get through. And trust me, I have a ton of RBI props, pitching looks here, home run props. Tom has the same as well. We'll get those all to you in real time and have some fun. But to me, Tom, when you open up the Major League Baseball season, you're looking at a lot of statistics, at least myself, from last year. How pitchers performed, lefty-righty splits, home and away splits, maybe some day-night splits at that part. So I just want to understand and let the people understand what we think about, because I put a tweet out yesterday and also this morning. Like, I fly a little bit blind in the month of April. Now, we know our baseball, we know our statistics, and we know which teams are good, which players are good, and which pitchers are good and bad. But understand this from me. April is that feeling out for me. Get a couple starts here from the starting pitchers. Have some of these batters, 20, 30, 40 at-bats from splits to lefty and righties. How do you approach, Tom, the early Major League Baseball season that we're seeing right now in the end of March?
Yeah, I think you have to know what you're looking for, and you also have to decide like how much you want to put weight into that. So, like, for example, like a pitcher, like you said, by the end of April, we're only going to have a handful of starts. Let's just say last year a pitcher had, let's call it a 35% fly ball rate, right, which is pretty modest overall. And let's say through the first month of April, he's up at a 55% fly ball rate. Right? Well, okay, that's not sustainable based on what he did last year and based on his career average, which is at 35, 36%. So we're expecting that to regress. So he may be giving up a lot of fly balls, which may lead to home runs right now. But over time, that's going to fall down back to where his career average is. So we can buy into him now, but we have to be very cognizant of the fact that that's not going to be sustainable. The same thing for a hitter. We see these hitters throughout the first 2 weeks. Some of them are going to be batting 450, 500. That's not going to be sustainable at the same time. So we have to use what we know, what they did last year throughout the course of their career. And same thing on the opposite side. When hitters start off slow, we're going to see hitters that are going to be batting 125. That's also not going to be sustainable. They'll eventually rise to the Mendoza line and eventually get back up to that 270 mark. So you have to know what you're looking for. Are you willing to buy into hot streaks or cold streaks? Are you willing to fade pitchers, go on the unders on their strikeouts? You have to know your stance and roll with that, at least in the short term. And then once we hit beginning of May and once we really get to Memorial Day, we know exactly what we're looking for day in and day out.
Exactly. When we take a look, Tom, at what sort of prop bets we like and strategies that we have, it used to be, again, I'm a little bit older, 47 years old. The only thing you could bet were sides and totals. But now the options that you have with multiple sports books makes this so much fun. And each and every year, Tom, I find myself really falling in love with either A, a new statistic, or B, a new betting strategy to have. It used to be, okay, team totals, which I love to do. We'll do multiple team totals each and every week right here on the show. I love the RBI market because generally outside of Coors Field, it's all big plus money. The home run market's certainly kind of fun, more of a lottery ticket type thing. But the one I saw last year, Tom, and it was the hits plus runs plus RBI market, which I love to use Bet365 for that because you can go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. Now, what that market is for some people that are just learning for the first time is you just need, let's just say, Trey Turner today, the Philadelphia Phillies. Let's just say he leads off. In order to hit that number, you need to have either one base hit, 1 RBI, or 1 run scored. Now, granted, that's going to be a heavy minus money number. Let's just say minus 230 or minus 240 to get that. If you increase that to 2, 3, and 4, those start to turn into plus money. We have so many different ways to hit those strategies and so much fun, which I'll bring up multiple games today as we go along with the show on some prop bets that I played and why I played that strategy. So for you, Tom, when you take a look at, and again, it's easy, hey, K market and stuff like that. Are there any new markets or fun markets that you're going to bring to our attention this year right here on Pro Baseball Today?
Yeah, I think the total base market and the hits plus runs plus RBIs, that's really interesting. And it's important to note that not every book offers this. You can get
True.
that market on DK. You can't get it on FanDuel. I love baseball essentially because, like, my prevailing theory, a lot of times, like, there's more than one way to skin a cat, essentially, where we can look at a total base prop, which is generally 1.5 for most hitters. But at 1.5 for someone like that I like today, Alec Baum, it's 1.5 minus 130. But if you actually flip to his total hit market, you can actually take 2 hits and we're getting plus money at that point. Now, obviously, there's a million permutations of where he goes 1 for 4 and he has a double, so he cashes his total base prop, but he doesn't cash his total hit prop. But then you would be getting plus money on 2 plus hits instead of 2 plus total bases. So you could kind of mix and match things the way you see fit, and it's obviously different depending on the hitting environment that we have. Some are fantastic hitters parks compared to pitchers parks. I just love baseball because you can find what works for you. You can stick to that. You can pivot. You can deviate slightly. You can do different things for different types of hitters, contact hitters versus power hitters. So for me, it's generally total bases, RBIs. Also talking pre-show, we were talking with one of the producers behind the scenes, Sam. You can get RBI props. You can cash plus money RBI props without a hitter actually having a hit. A walk or a sac fly can get you plus money. So you can find what you love about baseball and then kind of jump in and out every other day depending on what the matchups are.
That's what made me fall in love with RBI props. You can go 0 for 5 with 2 RBI because you stepped to the plate with a guy on third base and 1 out, and you ground it out to get that guy home. So much fun, so many different markets. And understand this, too. Like, I live in New Jersey. Tom is in Connecticut here. There are different books, different ways to play. But most importantly, the thing that we're going to preach, you need to get the best number possible. And this morning, when I'm just taking a look early in the season, RBI props, home run props, strikeout props, lines themselves, you can get wild 10, 20, 30, as many as 40-cent differences on some of these wagers just to make sure you're keeping up and keeping on your toes to make sure you have as many outlets as you need to. Now, understand this too, Tom. Betting strategy early in the season. Of course, I take my, units, keep them a little bit lower in April till we hit that sweet spot in late May to June and the weather starts to turn. But understand this, when you're taking a look at the strategies themselves, do you have any focuses? Are you more pitcher friendly, Tom, in the first, let's just say quarter of the season, batter friendly? Do you pick your spots? What do you look for in the month of March and April to sort of get you going into the season?
I think it's easy to say take a lot of unders on pitcher strikeouts because we do look at pitchers as not being stretched out. A part of me just digging into some of the spring training numbers, I think that may be starting to change, which we'll get into a pitcher today, Taj Bradley. He had over 100 pitches in his last spring training start. So traditionally, I would say these numbers are too high. They're not going to be having that many pitches. They're going to be, just getting into the rhythm of things. And also hitters, they're probably just looking to get on base, make contact. So they're going to be swinging a bit more in terms of playing it safe. So they're not going to have many strikeouts. So you can look to pitcher unders on strikeouts, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case this year. So I generally like pitcher strikeouts because they're relatively projectable, but total bases is probably the easiest before we dig into home runs. I love home run props, as you know, but total bases is just so much easier, getting a relative level of consistency rather than players that are operating at full swings, especially when we're dealing with cold weather as we are today.
Parlays, round robins, straight wagers, all included. We'll make sure we hit all of that stuff throughout this entire spring and summer jaunt that we have. And the good part about it, too, is Sundays. Sometimes here, Tom, the most tricky day of the week because you don't necessarily know who's in the lineup. There's probably more substitutions on a Sunday than any other day of the week. As I'm looking right now, a lot of lineups starting to come out, which include the New York Yankees, which would be a perfect segue into the second segment when we take a look at what the Yankees are actually doing and maybe why they're hitting so many home runs out of Yankee Stadium. Not that it's an easy ballpark to hit out of. It is. Not that the wind was blowing out and it was warm, which it was yesterday, but some interesting things they're doing with their utensils, if you will, as they get to the plate. But as we said, we wanted to set the table here for a fantastic spring right here, which starts today. Every single game on the card today, Tom and I will go over prop bets galore, home run bets, whatever you need to get you into the show and also, more importantly, into your Major League Baseball season in style. Get ready. All year long, Pro Baseball Today, Donnie Rightside, Tom Vecchio. The news starts next. Keep it right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. You studied the stats. You had the perfect bracket until your upsets turned into regrets. SportsGrid rides the highs and lows of every buzzer beater, bracket buster, and Cinderella story.
The Big Ten Freshman of the Year!
Our team brings you sharp insights, real-time reactions, and all the madness. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You are banking on a guy that's got one Sweet 16 berth in his career.
How many years has he been a D1 head coach?
What, I think 15?
18.
This clown is walking into that tradition. Let me tell you something, bro. You just stepped into the hot seat, because if you don't turn it around quick at Villanova, they're going to boo you out of there just like they boo you out of College Park tonight.
Only on SportsGrid.
We used to open up the newspapers on Sunday morning to get that information you needed, and sometimes was delayed. The good part about now on the SportsGrid Network, Pro Baseball Today is a Sunday morning paper that's live and interactive and designed to get you ready for the Major League Baseball day. But the hot topics of the week, the flow. We've had a couple days so far with opening day throughout the weekend, which will culminate in today's Sunday action. And the games that we're talking about sometimes are, boy, did you see that final score? How many home runs did they hit? I wonder what has changed, because if you follow me on Twitter, I'm like, you know what? Is it the Juice Baseball's back, or Tom Vecchio? Is it just the new bats that are now correlating to, maximizing launch angle and barrel up ability in Yankee Stadium? The Yanks built 9 home runs yesterday, and everybody's talking about a certain batting utensil, Tom. Fill us in here.
Yeah, so the Yankees, obviously, they're known for their power. It was a beautiful day, like you said yesterday. There was wind blowing out. It is a hitter-friendly park, but the Yanks are using new, unique, whatever you want to call them, bats that they are dubbing the torpedo bats, which are a slightly different shape, where the meat of the bat is actually centered around the barrel. So it's not like a uniform shape that goes to the end. It's a little fatter in the middle and then thins out towards the end. And this was designed in part by someone they have on staff. His nickname is Lenny, one of their analytics people that is a former MIT professor. He was also a professor at Michigan who helped design these, that the majority of the contact of the ball is for the barrel, at the barrel. So therefore, wouldn't you want the densest part of the bat in that spot? And granted, it's a one-game sample size where they scored 20 runs and 9 home runs. So I think that leaps off the page. But we were talking, during the break, that this is within the confines of the rules. The MLB came out with the statement yesterday that it is within the confines of the rules. The bat can't be longer than X. It can't be wider than a certain part at its fattest part. And it is in these rules. So I think that the 9 home runs and the 20 runs and the bat, it like jumps off the page at you. But anyone can do this. And that's what it really comes down to. And I always like to take things on the opposite side. Like, what if the Yankees were using a super thin bat and they were hitting all these home runs? Would everyone would be complaining, because they're still within the rules at that point?
Yeah, growing up as a kid, like you see the wiffle ball bat, right? You have the yellow skinny one, and then you have the red bat with the giant barrel. So different things for what different people like to see. But Major League Baseball, we've always been pressing the lever down, whether it's throwing a spitball, whether it's corking a bat like Sammy Sosa, hitting a ton of home runs as bat breaks. Oh no, look what he's doing here. The steroid era, the juice ball arrows we talk about, the humidor era. And now we actually have a team that, and we're asking the question mainly, is it legal? But based upon the rules that have set forth by Major League Baseball, you are pressing the boundaries, but it is completely legal. It's almost akin to like the Dodgers. Wait, you're circumventing the payroll. And the Dodgers go, I look at the letter of the law. We're not doing anything wrong at this point, and they're not. How do you think Major League Baseball is going to look at this? Because let's just say we are reactionary. Over the next week, the Yankees hit an average of over 3.5 home runs per game. Does the rest of Major League Baseball figure out this formula, contact their bat suppliers and get it changed? Or does Major League Baseball come out with maybe a statement this week saying, Yanks aren't doing anything wrong. It's not banging on a trash can. It's not buzzers on your shoulder to let you know a fastball is coming. It's completely legal.
I think it's completely legal, and frankly, this reminds me of like a Belichick type situation where he found something in the rules. He's going to push up to that limit, and it's not illegal. It's within the confines, but like people aren't used to this being something that teams do. And is this the new norm? Like you said, like this could be the new norm. Like we moved away from, the shifts and spitballs and the 3 outcomes for baseball. But like, if this is going to be the new norm, teams are going to find ways to do things. And whether it's stealing bases with the bases being bigger, whether it's the pitch clock and you're trying to time things differently, teams are going to do everything that they possibly can to win an extra game here or there, which puts them ahead in the standings, which gets them home field advantage, which has them score 1 extra run. How many times have teams lost games 1-0 or 2-1? And if you have that extra run, all of a sudden you're tied going in extras and then extra innings, and at least in the regular season, it's a coin flip with that runner starting on second. So I'm fine with it. The MLB says it's okay. I hope every team adopts it and we continue to push things as far as possible to give us the best possible outcomes.
I love it. No, I don't think anybody's ever come up and said, you know what, sometimes in Major League Baseball in the playoffs, ooh, that was a really good 2-1 game. We don't need 2-1 games in March and April. We want points on the board, which means runs on the board. This could be it.
Is this the MLB tush push?
Mid-season?
Now I'm thinking about this. This is the MLB tush push.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like the Yankees are the only ones that can make this back.
Every team has the possibility to do the tush push. Yeah, everyone can make the bats. Everyone can do the tush push. This is the MLB tush push. Get on board, figure out how to be better, and get out there and do it.
Now, if this is the official version of the tush push and we can relate it to Major League Baseball, it's like the Yankees or the Phillies right now. This is unfair. If the Yankees are the Philadelphia Eagles, it's unfair right now. And teams that struggle try to put in the rules, like the Green Bay Packers can't do the tush push. They want it outlawed. Now, the reason I bring this up is there's a team in Major League Baseball right now that could use the tush push and or some barrels on their bats or maybe just make some contact. Have you seen what the Atlanta Braves are doing right now, Tom Vecchio? 3 games into the season, 0-3. Take a look at that graphic. 1 for 22 with runners in scoring position. By the way, if I could get anything tattooed on my body, it's runners in scoring position will be the death of me because it's one of those stats I look at that go, hey, I had a team total of 3.5. They went 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position. I can't tell you how many times that has happened, but also, what's the deal with the Braves? Goodness.
Yeah, what's the deal with the Braves? I don't want to overreact because I think they are a fantastic lineup. And a part of me wants to say, like, what if we were having this conversation on March 30th or June 30th? Yeah. They were going through a rough 3-game stretch. We would say it's 3 games, right? It's you 1 for 22. It's 3 games, a little losing streak. It is what it is. But the fact that it's at the beginning of the season, I think that it shines more of a light on it. When in reality, it's a long season. I'm not overly worried about them. I was on them yesterday for a win. Frankly, I'll be on them tonight for a win. Going up against Nick Pivetta, I think is an average pitcher. But we talked about the Padres on the preview show. The Padres are a really good team. And if it wasn't for the Dodgers, the Padres would be the favorites to win that division. So they're going up against a good team. It is a small 3-game sample size. 22 at-bats in the course of an MLB season is absolutely nothing. So I'm not worried in the long run. They're going to be a good offense. And once they get back at home, and not that it's not nice hitting weather in San Diego, but once they get back at home, we're going to go through a stretch where they're going to go 15 of 22, and everyone's going to forget about this. So I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, used to be back at Fulton County Stadium. Then they got the other stadium built there. Now it's obviously moved in across to Truist Park. Is it still called Truist Park right now? Or they change it again for the 5th time down there? So there we go. Still Truist Park. Used to be called the launching pad, and you're right, for good reason at that point here. We're going to take a look at some guys that have been injured already to start the season. But understand this. I thought I also wrote a Brave statistic that the last 3 or 4 times they started like 0-3 or 0-4, they made the playoffs each and every one of those years. It's a long season. Calm down. Sit back in your chair. Tom and Donnie will be right back.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. You studied the stats. You had the perfect bracket until your upsets turned into regrets. SportsGrid rides the highs and lows of every buzzer beater, bracket buster, and Cinderella story.
The Big Ten Freshman of the Year!
Our team brings you sharp insights, real-time reactions, and all the madness. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You are banking on a guy that's got one Sweet 16 berth in his career.
How many years has he been a D1 head coach?
What, I think 15?
18.
This clown is walking into that tradition. Let me tell you something, bro. You just stepped into the hot seat because if you don't turn it around quick at Villanova, they're going to boo you out of there just like they boo you out of College Park tonight.
Only on SportsGrid.
The injury report never stops in Major League Baseball. I always laugh like, hey, you ever play Madden football? And you say, you know what, just turn the injuries off. Let's have a good time here. It never stops on opening day and opening weekend. And a couple big injuries to talk about already here, Tom. And again, this just reads like Max Scherzer's already injured with a lat soreness injury, which shows that he hasn't been healthy the past couple years. Team saying, could he get back to normal? Is this the end of the road, Tom, for my guy Max Scherzer? Come on now.
It's the end of the road for the pitcher that he once was.
Yeah.
He's also dealing with a thumb thing, and I think he said in the post game yesterday that it was, or the other day, that was related to the thumb. Where I don't know if he's gripping it too much or whatever it might be. It's the end of the road for him being a 35% strikeout pitcher, being a threat to go out there and have a no hitter every other time he's on the mound. Can he be a serviceable pitcher? Sure. I think that's what we all have to come to the realization that the Scherzer that we once saw is gone. Obviously, this puts in question what was already a completely average Blue Jays roster to begin with. Now it's even worse.
By the way, I'm not a doctor. I only play one here at the Sports Grid Network because I'm going to bring up this next one here. Whenever I hear Manny Machado, my calf tightened up. It's no big deal. It's only a cramp. I get worried, Tom, the immediate time I hear that. Now look at Machado going why he can't be in the lineup today, and I hope it's not long-term.
Oh, I hope it's not long-term. You hope it's just what do you call a calf cramp like we see in the NFL where the players are able to come back. It seems like an issue at the time, but after 24 hours, some amount of rest, he should be able to get back out there. The concern that I have is it's not about the fielding. It's more about the planting when he's at the hit, when he's at the plate trying to get a hit. He's actually trying to drive power through his legs, and the calf becomes an issue because he's not able to generate power. So he may seem normal, he may be able to field the ball, but if he's not generating power, then he's not a player that we can trust. And frankly, he's not a player that should be in lineup. So I would have more concerns about a hitting aspect than him being a defensive liability.
Taking a look right now at lineups already coming out, Tom, and I see some of my orders and lineups that aren't quite sure what they were supposed to be entering into today. So some interesting stuff we'll get to in just a few moments here. But hitting some of those rest of the guys that were injured. Jose Ramirez left the game after having a sprained wrist, and a couple of Philadelphia Phillies. JT Realmuto, bruised foot. X-rays came back negative, and Trey Turner didn't even make it to the starting gate yesterday. Back sort of seized up on him a little bit. We'll see if he's able to go today. But usually in the beginning of the season, you're extra cautious with these type of injuries here. Now in that Phillies-Washington series, you might go back to opening day and look at the Philadelphia Phillies output whoa, scoring a lot of runs here. I'm telling you right now, Mackenzie Gore was fully stretched out in midway through the season. He wasn't coming out with 93 pitches, probably went at least another inning. He was absolutely filthy. How filthy was it? Look at the screen right now. Opening day history. When you are in a realm of there's only two players to do something, and Bob Gibson was one of them, that's a crazy good opening day.
Awesome opening day for him. Obviously, a player that they acquired from the Juan Soto trade. A player that I unfortunately couldn't keep on one of my dynasty teams. As you know, I'm big into fantasy. I had him on one of my dynasty teams years ago when he was during that trade. Wasn't able to keep him. A player that's really shaping up to be the ace of their staff. A player that I think we're going to look at to trust when it comes to strikeout props every time he's on the mound, considering, if the matchup's good, but a player that a lot of people should be excited about.
Yeah, absolutely there. And also taking a look at Shohei Ohtani. Oh, yeah, you didn't get enough of the Dodgers' 5-0 start, returning back to the mound here. But the Dodgers are telling us, Tom, sit back, relax, give it some time here.
Yes, you sit back and wait. And there's a lot of news there was clips the other day that he's throwing a bullpen session. Now, he did have like a heavy brace on his arm, so I'm not sure what the timeline is for that. They haven't given us a timeline. There was some reports last year like, maybe he would pitch in the postseason, which was a complete falsification of information, regardless of that. But at some point, he's going to pitch. And the dynamic I want to know is like, what will be the overall level of trust that we have in him? Is he going to be pitching? Is he going to be hitting on the same days? Is his arm going to be tired? Is that going to affect his swings? Is he going to be out there and be, an okay pitcher where he's out there more just to get into the rhythm of things, but he's not going to be as high of a strikeout pitcher? Like, there's so many unknowns with Ohtani where it's great to see him out there, but it's still just a wait and see essentially.
No, it really is. But also, let me ask you this question. Like, do we need him as a starter? Can't we just bring him in like a high-leverage situation, the 8th or 9, like 10, 12 pitches, get him in, get him out at that point? Or are we just going to bring him back and say, you know what, gas up the tank, 80 pitches to 85 pitches a game, that's where he needs you. He's so darn talented that you can use him anywhere you want out there, it feels like.
Right. I think that may be the best thing where it's like they can feel it out for a couple starts because they have 5-6 starters that can go, add him in as a 7th. They can just mix and match him. Like, we'll test things out. If it doesn't work, we'll move on.
I can't wait to see when he comes back and pitching. Like, if he's still hitting like he did last year, the MVP, the sky's the limit, you get all that. We're going to get to that odds market coming up on who's going to win some of these awards, but also we're going to segue into some red-hot starts and ice-cold starts by a couple players right here on Pro Baseball Today.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. You studied the stats. You had the perfect bracket until your upsets turned into regrets. SportsGrid rides the highs and lows of every buzzer beater, bracket buster, and Cinderella story.
The Big Ten Freshman of the Year!
Our team brings you sharp insights, real-time reactions, and all the madness. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You are banking on a guy that's got one Sweet 16 berth in his career.
How many years has he been a D1 head coach?
What, I think 15?
18.
This clown is walking into that tradition. Let me tell you something, bro. You just stepped into the hot seat because if you don't turn it around quick at Villanova, they're going to boo you out of there just like they boo you out of College Park tonight.
Only on SportsGrid.
Pro Baseball Today, Donnie Rightside, Tom Vecchio with you all spring and summer long, every Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern to 12 p.m. Eastern, and away we go into this season. I can't wait to watch it play out today. Been having so much fun over the past couple days, but there are some hot topics and awards markets that are moving. Now, maybe not every week are we going to tell you that, yes, Shohei Ohtani is leading the National League to be the MVP and or Aaron Judge, but I always love this too, because after a few days, the public starts to settle in. Like, I don't want to miss out on a good number after 3 games from a 162-game schedule. Now, the reason why we freak out sometimes early is players open up red hot, and some players that you thought might be decent open up ice cold. We're talking about red hot players. Aaron Judge, anybody catch his game yesterday? Look at the start to the season. A 500 average. Oh, yeah, he was the MVP last year as well. 3 home runs, 9 RBI, and 4 runs scored. He has been unconscious there right now, up for the New York Yankees. I love what I see, and those markets that we'll get to in a second are moving accordingly here, Tom.
Yeah, we have an awesome start from Judge, obviously highlighted yesterday by multiple home runs, 3 to be exact, RBIs coming each and every day. I would say, don't overreact. And frankly, if you don't have an MVP bet, don't bet on Judge. Like a plus 155 or plus 150 number where he is now is honestly a terrible bet for a season-long MVP where we are 3 games in to the season. You should not be betting on it. Frankly, there are better bets to be made. You can find a guy that's 15-1 now that he may not end up winning, but if he gets off to a good start or it turns around a slow start after 3 games, I don't even want to call it a slow start, that number could be dropped to 7-1, 6-1 if you trust in these players and trust in what they're able to do. So don't take Judge right now. And why I said this pre-show, I think the numbers are this low for a player like Judge or Ohtani because, frankly, I think they want to dissuade people and disincentivize them from betting. Like, they don't want to make Judge or Ohtani a liability for the book. So that's why they're making them so low.
Yeah, what Tom's talking about here is like a plus 150 dog for the day. That's awesome, man. You bet it at 1 o'clock, you cash it at 4. You bet plus 150 on Aaron Judge here on March the 30th, 2025. You're waiting till December probably to cash in that ticket at plus 150. So value, yes, in the eye of the beholder. But I think Tom's right at some point. You just price it so low where it's not enticing to take it and say, whoo, limited the damage, even if he does end up winning. But one of the teams I used to love, and I don't even say back in the day, a few years ago, Great American Ballpark, which Tom's going to bring up multiple times, I'm sure, during this show and certainly throughout the spring and the summer. Eugenio Suarez, that Reds lineup, is one of my favorite lineups. Now he goes out and look at Eugenio Suarez hitting 400, also with 4 bombs to start the season. Wake it up, Suarez.
Love it. And we talked about the Dodgers a good amount on the preview show. And yesterday he was batting, 6th in the lineup? Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, Lourdes Gurriel, Randall Grichuk, and Josh Naylor ahead of him. He's going to, if those players are on base or any combination, he's batting 4th, 5th, 6th. That is a great offensive lineup. And if he is going to be in spots to consistently pick up RBIs, let's just be clear, I don't think he's actually going to win MVP, right? We all agree it's probably going to be Ohtani, maybe someone else. Soto's obviously there. But from a prop perspective, he could be one of the best players all season, RBIs or total bases, because they're never going to be able to pitch around him. If there's players on base, he has this amount of power, that could be a real source of value this season.
No, it certainly can. And also, when we're taking a look at the red hot guys to start the season, also, we've all played baseball before. You want to rack up those hits early in the season. Like, you want to be batting 132 midway through April. It's like, how am I ever going to get out of this slump that I have to try to build my statistics back up? It's great to get the hot start, and some of these guys are doing that. Now, one off season that I really liked was the Boston Red Sox. Rafael Devers may be the face of the franchise and says, you know what? I'm going to take my game to the next level. But first, you made a trade where you don't want me to play third base. No, I want to play third base. Now you want to make me a DH. Now I'm really unhappy, and I'm so unhappy. I don't have a base hit, and I struck out 10 times on opening weekend, and we're not even through Sunday. Rafi Devers here, Tom. Come on now.
10 strikeouts, the most in MLB history for the first 3 games of a season. It is not good. And a lot of people were talking in the offseason that, Devers, for as much of a liability as on defense, he's a player that needs to be in the rhythm of the game. He needs to be out there on defense. You need a weather that kind of storms the ups and downs because he is an amazing hitter. It's obviously not shown through the first 3 games, but he is an all-star caliber hitter. He can hit 30, 35 home runs, 100 RBIs. And we agreed that this Red Sox team is a team that we're excited about this year. The improvements that they made in pitching, the young talent that they have, that lineup can be good. He needs to be a very, very big part of that, or we're going to see some issues with Boston this year. If this is a sign of things to come, it could get late early for them.
Now, we just had that a couple graphics pop up, like how actual good Aaron Judge has been, reflective in the market we'll get to in just a moment. How bad Rafael Devers has been. Keep in mind, it's 162 games. They've only played a few games here. You can respond, you can rebound, and not play good baseball and play good baseball at the same time. Check out the AL market right now as where it sits. Aaron Judge coming into this morning was a plus 155 price. He's down to plus 150. Coming into the season here, he was a 3-1 price. He cut his number in half. Rafael Devers was a 30-1 favorite to be the AL MVP. He's 60-1 today, just a few days later. So you talk about the ebbs and flows of, yeah, we expected in high expectations. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater on Devers. He dropped $30 in one betting market here, Tom.
One betting market, and how much of this is to do with Judge himself just running away with things at least through 3 games, and the combination of Devers going 0 of 10 or whatever it is with a million strikeouts to start the season. Like, these things are happening at the same time, which is hilarious. Devers is a good hitter. If you don't have a bet on him now, would I recommend betting on him? No, of course not. I think with the current odds, someone like Donnie 19-1, even Corey Seager on the other side of that series for the Red Sox, like 14-1. Those are fine spots to look, especially even someone like Gunnar Henderson at 12-1. But the combination of both things happening at the same time is so interesting. But again, if this were to happen in June, on June 30th, and Devers goes through a stretch where he's 0 of 10, I don't think that would be that much of a difference. Like, it's more dramatic now because he doesn't have a hit. But if he already had 5 home runs, 10 home runs under his belt, this would just be a drop in the pan, or a flash in the pan.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with you, which is why I love to see the open market analysis. Like, after 3 games, like, this guy can't play anymore, and then he winds up with 35 home runs, hits 290 on the season, and he got an unbelievable discount because of how much he was struggling to start the season in colder temperatures, getting accustomed to new pitchers that he's facing here. These guys will be just fine. Flip it over to the NL race here for the MVP. Shohei Ohtani, no surprise. Dodgers are hot. He's a plus 145. But when you start to take a look at some of these players a little bit farther down the list, and we don't have to go too far, Mookie Betts 14-1. The question's coming up in spring training, Tom. Boy, lost 15 to 20 pounds. He's really sick. Comes right out, knocking home runs out of the ballpark.
Knocking home runs, I'm saying I'm a little bit surprised about that. Obviously, the weight loss, you'd be worried about his power at a certain point, but he's still a phenomenal hitter. Like, that will rebound. I assume his weight will be under control as we move forward. And again, it's a lineup thing where he's literally always going to see good pitches. He doesn't strike out a lot. He has a good contact rate, and he's always going to come through because that's what Mookie does. Frankly, someone like we've talked about, like De La Cruz at 20-1 right now. Listen, the power will be there for him, and he's going to steal 50 some odd bases. He could go 30 and 50. And he may not have the team success that Ohtani does, and especially if Ohtani gets back on the mound, that puts him as such a heavy favorite. But Elly De La Cruz is that type of excitement that we want to have. If you're betting on a player that has immense upside, it's always going to be him.
It is, and it's a fun market, and the reason why I wanted to bring that right out of the gate on this show is how much these numbers are moving just from a few games. It's not the NFL. It's like, hey, you know what? We're 3 or 4 games in, so a quarter of the season is down. You're 3 games down into 159 or plus games they have left on your schedule. Things will rebound quickly on these Cy Young Award markets. Top pitch, Skubal's still up there, plus 380. Was he fantastic against the Dodgers? No, he'll be fine this year. Paul Skeens, was he fantastic against the Marlins? He was good enough to have a decent start in that game and a quality start. He's plus 210. Any quick shakeups there for you in the Cy Young market? Did you like what you saw, or just status quo for at least some of these guys to get 5 or 6 starts under their belt?
Yeah, I would say status quo. Cease is interesting. It's always going to be interesting because I think he can lead the league in strikeouts. The walks are always an issue for Dylan Cease, but he started off the other day super strong. It was 4 strikeouts through 2 innings, 6 through whatever. Like, he's a pitcher that can legitimately have 8 strikeouts in a 4-inning stretch and be up there along with Skeens to lead the league in strikeouts. So I always think Cease is interesting.
The boys are just getting started this morning, a 2-hour show here. You wanted handicap games? You're going to get those handicap games next. Pro Baseball Today. It's Tom and Donnie Sunday. What a good place to be.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. You studied the stats. You had the perfect bracket until your upsets turned into regrets. SportsGrid rides the highs and lows of every buzzer beater, bracket buster, and Cinderella story.
The Big Ten Freshman of the Year!
Our team brings you sharp insights, real-time reactions, and all the madness. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You are banking on a guy that's got one Sweet 16 berth in his career.
How many years has he been a D1 head coach?
What, I think 15?
18.
This clown is walking into that tradition. Let me tell you something, bro. You just stepped into the hot seat, because if you don't turn it around quick at Villanova, they're going to boo you out of there just like they boo you out of College Park tonight.
Only on SportsGrid.
Handicapping, and more handicapping, and away we go, hitting every single game on the Major League Baseball card today. We'll mostly go in chronological order just to keep it simple here. We're going to start with the Philadelphia Phillies and the Washington Nationals. Rotation number 951, 952, a 135 start here. That's the Philadelphia Phillies, and again, in the Nationals. Starting pitching matchup today, Nola versus the lefty Parker. If we take a look at the odds, and I just use maybe a baseline here for me throughout the spring and the summer as FanDuel, some opening numbers, and then see where some of the other books are coming in. FanDuel would open this line here to minus 158 price towards the Phillies as a favorite, a plus 134 dog for the Washington Nationals. The total, once again, an 8.5. As we look to FanDuel, that line is dropped. That minus 158 is now down to 142, and across the board, once again, make sure you're shopping to get the best prices. 142s are out there as well as 150s. Plus money numbers of plus 125 down to plus 120. So if you're betting favorites or dogs, make sure you're hitting that appropriately here. Nola and Parker, I'll start with you, Tom. In Washington, give me some looks that you might like here.
Yeah, first off, this game actually has some really nice weather. It's like it's going to be in the 80s, a little bit of wind blowing out 10 to 15 miles per hour. And like this is an important thing, especially early in the season. Like there are dramatic weather changes, especially in the Northeast, and there's dramatic differences that it's going to be cold this upcoming week. So we're going to see some cold stuff. Regardless of that, nice day in Washington, some hitting weather. Nola's a good pitcher. As you know, his strikeout rate wasn't as high as it was, previously in his career. He's not going to be getting up to 29, 30%. Parker's a little bit more interesting. Last year, allowed a 4.24 slugging to righties. He is a lefty pitcher. 4.53 xFIP, 1.33 home runs per nine, with a little bit of wind blowing out. I am interested in some of the Phillies hitters. We will get to the home runs later, but Alec Baum's at the top of my list today.
Alec Baum, darn right here, and I have him on that list as well, so we'll get to it. But you're right. Early in the season, it's very important. Once we get into June, July, and August, you can anticipate East Coast, 80 to 85 degrees, some of those desert places where it's like Arizona, domes will be shut at that point. Some of those guys are actually playing a little bit more for the elements until you actually have to start closing things down in Texas and Houston where it gets just too hot in the summer. So we do take a look at 80 degrees in temperatures and the wind blowing out to dead center field. That should help. Ball was flying over the past couple games between the Phillies and the Nationals. If we take a look at Mitchell Parker last year for me, he actually had some decent numbers. 646 total batters that he's faced, a 150 ISO combined to lefties and righties, and a weighted on base percentage of 315, which is really good. However, that Phillies lineup, and it's hard to have a compilation of just a few days, but last year, they really hit left-handed pitching well. Turner, Harper, Bohm, Schwarber, Castellanos. But again, some of these elements are going to change today because no JT Realmuto in the lineup and no Trey Turner in the lineup. As I just take a look to see, as those lineups have just come out, particularly for the Philadelphia Phillies, looks like we have Schwarber, Bohm, Harper, Castellanos, Stott, Sosa, Marsh, Rojas, and Marchand will be the catcher today as opposed to JT Realmuto. So a little bit different of a look. For me, as I'm lining it up, left-handed batters had really struggled last year against Mitchell Parker, but right-handed batters didn't fare all that great. Take a look at a 173 ISO power number coupled with a weighted on-base percentage of 319. That's not all that great, but that's the angle that I do want to play. So for chances for me on RBI props, I like the Philly side a little bit more than the Washington side because I think the pitcher's matchup is a little bit more in focus for the Phillies. I had Alec Boehm to get an RBI plus 170 price listed at FanDuel, and then also Nick Castellanos, a plus 145 price at Bet365 for some RBI chances. The reason sometimes you'll find me taking RBIs at least 2, what do I need, Tom? Just cash me one of those RBI props here for plus money. You get both of them, you nail them down. But those are 2 batters I'm focused on in the lineup today for the Philadelphia Phillies.
Right, and this is how we can, look to build in a little bit of correlation when we look at implied team totals. Right, where if you say you grab 2 that you like, a team has an implied team total 4.5, 5, whatever it might be. Yep. You grab 2 of them, they're both at plus money. Again, you just need one of them to come through, and you're coming out net positive, at least in that game. And we like to obviously extend that through the course of the slate. So that's a pretty consistent theme that you'll hear from Donnie and I throughout the entire year, whether it be RBIs, total bases. It's like, listen, they have a 5 implied team total. They're going to be getting on base. Someone's going to be scoring. Let's try and find that player. Let's try and look at the matchups between the pitcher, the ISO he allows, whatever it might be. Low strikeout rate from the batters. Oh, something I love. He's not wasting chances at the play. Put the ball in play, get on base, not going to run.
Absolutely. And also taking a look at that hits plus runs plus RBI market. Yeah. Like, not every game do I have these plays for, but I figure where they just make sense. And this is probably the most expensive one of the day. I listed Boehm, Castellanos, and Harper. They're at a minus 130 price combined. Now, once again, the parlay would be 1 hit run or RBI from Boehm. Same thing with Castellanos and same thing with Harper. It doesn't matter. Like, you don't even have to have a guy get a base hit. If you walk and he gets knocked in, that counts as one of those. If you have a guy that has a runner on third, no base hit, and he drives him home for the RBI, that counts. Or how about this, my favorite, which I've cashed in the past, 0 for 5 with a walk and somehow scores, that cashes in as well. So that's pretty expensive. Boehm, Cassidy, and Harper at minus 130, but that's where I'm going here. On this game, Washington, Philadelphia, any Washington thoughts from a plate advantage or just focused more on the Phillies for you, Tom, in this one?
Just focus on the Phillies on this one. We'll get to the home run segment to close things out, and we can dig in a little bit more to Bomb, but it's all Phillies. I wouldn't mind just sticking with that to keep it simple to start the day.
No problem at all. Phillies, Washington, really looking forward to that game. Let's get to another one here, which had absolute fireworks so far to start their series, and maybe more of it today. Savali's going to take on Stroman, 971, 972 on the rotation, a 135 start here. This line opened up at FanDuel, minus 136 as a favorite towards the Yankees. Still in that realm between 134 and 136, depending on where you're shopping around. 8.5 at the opening number, Tom. Still sits at 8.5. Savali and Stroman for you today.
Yeah, it's going to be in the 50s today. It's not going to be in the 70s or 80s. We're going to have wind blowing in about 10 miles per hour. It is actually decent pitching weather. Both the Yankees have had plenty of career success against Savali, or Savali has had struggled against the Yankees if we look back, the past few years dating back to 2022 when he's with the Rays and with the Guardians. They're both the same type of pitcher, essentially. They're not super high strikeout pitchers. Stroman just does not allow hard contact. His hard contact rate last year, sub 30%. Also a big ground ball pitcher. But if he's not getting the strikeouts, he can get what a lot of people call getting BABIP to death, which is batting average of balls in play, where it's just like single, double, walk. Maybe he gives up 1 home run, but then it's another single, double, where all of a sudden he's given up 3 earned runs where he's not pitching bad. Hitters are just getting on base. So they're kind of the same. I don't mind looking at the under in this game. I know as crazy as that sounds, but the hitting weather really isn't as good as it was yesterday. I think we can look for a market over correction and actually take the under today.
Market overcorrections happen in all sports. Hey, to take a look at Duke, Alabama last night. Stayed well under the total when everybody had that one going over. We're also going to slow play this game a little bit because I have some interesting RBI props and some ways to bet it. But understand this. Savali last year, 4.31 xFIP number. Marcus Stroman last year, 4.50. So not great pitchers here. But again, first starts of the season, some interesting things happen. And also, Tom said, lower 50s, wind blowing in as opposed to out in Yankee Stadium. A huge output yesterday. Maybe some of those things change. Let's keep the dial right here on the Yankees and the Brewers when we come back on Pro Baseball Today.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. You studied the stats. You had the perfect bracket until your upsets turned into regrets. SportsGrid rides the highs and lows of every buzzer beater, bracket buster, and Cinderella story.
The Big Ten Freshman of the Year!
Our team brings you sharp insights, real-time reactions, and all the madness. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You are banking on a guy that's got one Sweet 16 berth in his career.
How many years has he been a D1 head coach?
What, I think 15?
18.
This clown is walking into that tradition. Let me tell you something, bro. You just stepped into the hot seat, because if you don't turn it around quick at Villanova, they're going to boo you out of there just like they boo you out of College Park tonight.
Only on SportsGrid.
Your Sunday ritual starts right here on the SportsGrid Network for Major League Baseball season. Pro baseball today. Like, I didn't know you guys had this show. Well, now you do know the show, and it's going to be jumping all summer long. Donnie Rightside, Tom Vecchio in the house, 2 hours every Sunday morning, starting at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., and away we go. And I wanted to stay here in that Yankees-Milwaukee Brewers game. The reason being is there's a couple of props that I like in both, by the way. Rosters are out. How about this, Tom? Yankees. Goldschmidt in the leadoff spot today, followed by Bellinger, Judge, Chisholm, Volpe, Wells, Dominguez, Rice, and Cabrera. So some changes there. If we look at the Milwaukee batters, Turang, Churio, Yelich, Contreras, Frelick, Bowers, Mitchell, Ortiz, and Dunn. How about the new Yankees look today for you, Tom? A lot of changes going on there.
Yeah, not too bad. Goldschmidt leading off for the second day in a row. Obviously, it was great yesterday with three straight home runs to start today on three straight pitches. I think the answer comes down to like Volpe or Wells, where Wells is plus 190, Volpe's plus 200 for, and this is just specifically for an RBI, where those players getting on base, which they've had some success at. Again, you just need one of them to cash it. And it's not like, small numbers here, like plus 200, plus 190. I think those are good spots. The Yankees, obviously, what's their team total sitting at 4.5 today. They're expected to get on base. And listen, Savali has struggled against them. Even though I said I do like the under, the Yankees winning this game 6-2, right? 5-2. I think it's like we're on point of like the total, their implied total, whatever it might be. 5-3. Quick math in my head.
Yeah, by the way, first two games here, really enjoying it. By the way, quick update here since we are a live show. It's fantastic. Max Scherzer placed on the 15-day IL here, so already having issues and will be sitting, and we'll see when he jumpstarts his season back. But let's continue with the Yankees because you want plus money. There's some good looks here today. And just looking at the rosters that came out, for me, Jazz Chisholm, plus 215 for an RBI today. He's batting in the cleanup spot here. So Judge and Bellinger, hopefully they can get on base. And again, don't need a base hit. Just need a guy on third and a pop fly ball to get him home. Also, Cody Bellinger to record an RBI today, plus 220. Both of those at Bet365. If you flip it over to the other side here and you take a look at Milwaukee going up against Marcus Stroman, I wanted to try to fade him a little bit here, Tom, from the left-hand side. Last year, 329 batters he's faced as lefty, 179 ISO, weighted on base percentage of 374. Yelich, plus 180 to record an RBI, and also Mitchell at a 3-1 price. And let me see. Oh, Mitchell's down in the 7th spot today. I was hoping he was actually up a little bit earlier. This is the fun of seeing these things come through live where the anticipation of those lineups were. So a lot of plus money listed across, but also hits, runs, and RBI props. One for the Yankees today. If you go Judge and if you go Jazz Chisholm and also Cody Bellinger, each one of those, plus 145. As we talked about the Phillies, that was a minus money price. If you do the same thing with 3 guys I like in the lineup today for the Brewers, Tom, that's Churio, Yelich, and Mitchell, plus 145 as well, just on that hits, run, and RBI prop at 365. I like these first 2 games. I'm enjoying these ones, Tom.
Yeah, I think for me, I would go with Yelich and then William Contreras in that order. And I would say the same thing for RBIs or the hits plus runs plus RBIs. So are you parlaying the 3 to just get
They're
one?
parlays. Correct. If all 3 of those to get 1 apiece.
Okay, so I don't have that option. Like 365 is not here in Connecticut.
That's it.
And
The only one that has it.
change that on DK. So the lines are 1.5. So I would have to take 1.5
Exactly.
and 1.5 rather than 1. Got it.
Exactly. That's why Tom and I were starting this talking the show behind the scenes. I was like, do you have 365? He says, no. Like, I really enjoy some of the creativeness that they get. Because, again, you could take it, Tom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and parlay those together. But I'm just taking it all the way down, looking to get plus money, which, again, he said, well, I don't know if they're going to get a base. They don't need a base hit. They need an RBI. They can just score a run, or they can get a base hit. And sometimes the best part about these wagers, Tom, they hit in the first inning. Leadoff walk, single, then an RBI. Everybody cashes tickets. 1, 2, 3 across the board at this point. So let's keep it moving, having some fun here on a Sunday morning. Baltimore and Toronto, Sagano and Bassett. Slight favorite here for Toronto as we set the table at a minus 120 price. Now sits at a minus 130 price and a little bit higher at other outlets here. You take a look also at the opening number for a total at 9. Just about everywhere still sits at 9, but FanDuel coming in with a little bit of juice at 8.5. Let's start here with some initial thoughts for the Orioles and the Jays for you, Tom.
Yes, Sagano's making his first MLB start. Obviously, he was in Japan last year. He had 111 strikeouts, 156 innings. There's not too much data on him. You'd have to, I've got that from Baseball Reference. Frankly, Chris Bassett is just like an extremely average pitcher. That's what, I have no faith in him ever. He's not a big strikeout pitcher. He gives up too many hits. He gives up home runs. I think the Orioles, not a surprise, they can score a lot of runs today. Plus 110, I think, is a very fair price for the Orioles, especially with their offense.
Yeah, we'll take a look at some of those lineups and check to see if some have been updated and are correct for the afternoon. But I also want to pick Tom's brain about sometimes we take a look at pitchers, particularly early in the season, that we don't have a lot of backlog on. How do you handle those handicaps? Next, right here on Pro Baseball Today.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. You studied the stats. You had the perfect bracket until your upsets turned into regrets. SportsGrid rides the highs and lows of every buzzer beater, bracket buster, and Cinderella story.
The Big Ten Freshman of the Year!
Our team brings you sharp insights, real-time reactions, and all the madness. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You are banking on a guy that's got 1 Sweet 16 berth in his career.
How many years has he been a D1 head coach?
What, I think 15?
18.
This clown is walking into that tradition. Let me tell you something, bro. You just stepped into the hot seat because if you don't turn it around quick at Villanova, they're going to boo you out of there just like they boo you out of College Park tonight.
Only on